Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Dailey. I'm the president of Dailey Electric Geothermal up in Penn Yan. Our business was started by my dad, Bert, in the early 1990s, mostly doing plumbing and a little bit of boiler installation. I worked for him since I can remember being a little kid. Got more interested in electric work, went to work full-time in the late 90s, and moved the business more towards electric and heating because I couldn't stand plumbing. Took the business over from my dad in 2007, and then we slowly transitioned into mainly HVAC, a lot of radiant systems and more electric and new construction houses. Along the way, we got heavily involved in geothermal in 2012 and 13, and that's been the majority of the focus of our business since then. Has been on geothermal installations. My dad still works for the business. My mom still works for the business, which is interesting that my mom still is with us too and helps a lot. My wife, Leah, pretty much runs our business for the most part. She was working at Strong and got her master's in business to move into some different positions. And I was struggling maintaining, running the business, doing bills, doing all that, and begged her to come help us, and turned into the best thing that we did because she runs pretty much everything. She does all the billing, all the scheduling, handles everything. And me and Tom handle all the geothermal stuff, and she keeps us all in check. From there, we got involved in the HeatSmart program down in the southern tier last year. And then we were fortunate enough to be chosen this year to be involved in the Tompkins HeatSmart program, which we are very excited about. So I will move forward with our case study with the next screen. This project is a house in Penn Yan. We couldn't get one down in the Lansing, Ithaca area due to all of our restrictions right now. This project, the homeowner's name is Steve Culver. It is a single-story ranch. It was purchased in 2008 by Steve. It was set up for a handicapped couple, and it was built in the 1950s, I believe, yes, 1953. And it had very little insulation, old windows, roof was gone. The house was pretty much a mess. Had a 40-year-old oil-fired boiler or furnace down the basement, pretty awful duct system. Someone had installed a 2-ton coil and condenser for air conditioning into the return side of a low boy furnace. Didn't do a whole lot, but did help the elderly couple that lived there. Steve bought it. In 2010, the oil was pretty ridiculous then. He installed a wood burner, outdoor wood burner. And we installed the coil into the furnace for him at the time, and he felt like that was the way to go. He had lots of woods, lots of acreage, and well, he liked cutting wood. As he went along after 2010, he upgraded a bunch of stuff to the house previous to any other work being done before any of this. He upgraded a bunch of windows. He kind of room by room in the house had gone through, gutted a couple of the rooms, re-insulated. Didn't really do much with the attic because you really can't, if you go back, you really can't see that there's almost no attic whatsoever. So he had done a fair amount of upgrading to the house before we got involved with Geo. So he carries on with this, cutting wood and not liking it at all, continually complaining about it. I've known Steve for a long time, been friends, and liked it, but was sick of cutting wood because he likes fishing. And that is pretty much all he wants to do is fish in his free time. And his free time was cutting wood. So this is what he wants to do instead of cutting wood. I was going to put some pictures in here of him cutting wood because pretty much every time I talked to him, that's what he was doing. This is the layout of his house. We can't really see over there all the way, but it's an odd setup. So on the kitchen, as you're looking at it, that's the kitchen in the living room. That has a full basement underneath it. And where it says bedrooms, that actually is a full room that he ended up framing off about half of that. And as you'll see later, that's where we ended up putting some of the equipment. He framed that off, finished that outside wall. It was a block wall. He sealed it up, insulated it and framed it and made it into a bedroom. He did one wall of the underneath the kitchen area, and then he turned the front part of this kitchen area basement into a production room for him. He makes fishing lures. So that's a whole room in there. Had little ceramic electric heaters, and it was always freezing in there real bad in the winter. Underneath where it says sitting room actually begins a little bit of a crawl space. You barely can get into the crawl space. There's one duct out there. The next entry room is on a slab, garage is on a slab, and the master bedroom's on a slab. Where the sitting room is actually, that line could go straight across, and he kind of made that a little home office right there, and it drops down and was a pretty tough area to try and heat. So he calls and says he's done with the wood, and there was no real conversation about any other system. He wanted Geo, and he wasn't really interested in anything else. He had electric hot water tank that was also had a heat exchanger on the side of it, so the wood boiler would heat that in the winter. In the summertime, he would maintain the wood boiler to a certain degree to keep the hot water. Otherwise, it switched over to electric. We did a blower door test on the house to get a rough idea of leakage. It was still there, but it was much better than it was when he bought it back in 2008. Much better. Still have a heat loss. It's at the end, but he has a heat loss of around 55,000 BTUs. So this is where the old lowboy sat, covered the floor drain. It was a huge unit, went all the way to the ceiling. And we pulled that out. So he has more storage room in that end of the basement. As you can see, that end of the basement is not finished at all. It is just blocked to the outside. There's no insulation, no anything. So this is underneath what was where it said bedroom in those plans, and it's about a 6 to 8 foot wide area, and you can see the door over there. That is where it led. That's a crawl space behind there. That's all dirt, and you really can't do nothing in there for the most part. So this is where we decided to put the new unit, solely based on it being the center of the house for the most part. We could fix the ductwork and try to get some proper airflow out into the master bedroom, and that became the hardest part to deal with. You can see the return ductwork is big enough for that end of the house. It's not big enough for the whole house. The supply was pretty much a mess. So this is the equipment being installed. We chose to put in a water furnace 7 series, and we really like that unit. We use that unit a lot. We have somewhere's up over 300 of those units installed, almost 400. The guys like it, we like it, our customers are extremely happy with it. We really don't put a lot of 2-stage units in because of the versatility of the 7 series. Preston is in the middle there. He's working on the flow center. That's a non-pressurized flow center with a variable speed pump on it. Cody is getting ready to pressure tested the loop, and he was getting ready to hook the flush card up when I asked him this. The big problem was the dog always in the way. Every job we go to that has a dog is attracted to Cody. So Steve's dog would never leave him alone, ever. So you see the flush cart in the background where Cody's getting right behind his head. He's getting ready to hook that up to flush the system. Preston is just working on that. So this is cleaned up where Preston was. That's the flow center in the middle, the non-pressurized flow center there. And then that is a 2-ton water-to-water heating only unit for 100% domestic hot water. So that provides all of Steve's hot water production. We use a 80-gallon water furnace tank next to it, and pipe it in the sides of it, expansion tank, and it works beautiful for domestic applications. It has a 4,500 watt element in the top of it in case we need backup if something were to happen. The customer can flip the breaker on and have auxiliary heat if needed. So this is kind of a side view of what it looks like. I just wanted a picture to show everybody size-wise, the amount of space it took up once the complete system was installed versus what that room looked like beforehand. The duct system is completely aero sealed. So we hook a system up, it seals the inside of the ductwork. And it was after we cleaned it. we had to use some flex duct in this place instead of everything metal because there was a lot of unconditioned areas that we couldn't get metal ductwork to and add into the basement for that bedroom. So that is a, I guess a full-size view of, people often ask how much space the unit will take up in a basement. That is a pretty good indicator of a forced air unit. It's a 5-ton unit also. This is the communicating thermostat that runs the unit. It is proprietary to Water Furnace's system. So it's often a common question. People want to know if with the 7 Series, if they can put their own nest on different thermostats, Aprilaire, and you cannot. The only thermostat that can work is that thermostat that is made by Water Furnace. And it ties in directly to the unit, which also ties into the Symphony, which I will go over in a few minutes. So that's the home screen of the communicating thermostat. Here is his loop field that we dug in the back. This one they're starting it. Pretty sandy. We did 2 loops up there, and it was a 7-ton loop for the 7 tons. Not much to go on. I was going to put a picture in here of his nice finished yard afterwards, because it lasted very nice for about 6 months, and then he built a motocross track in his backyard. So it's not anything that looks very nice to put in a picture. So when we did heat loss and we came up with, I'm going to skip forward here real quick and just show you well, it's too far. So the heat loss was around 55,000 BTUs, and we had a cooling load of about 30,000 BTUs. I ran a GeoLink report, and this is what I came up with for his annual consumption. Should be very close to that. $675 in heating, $47 in cooling, and $128 was roughly for hot water operation. So this is a little off. So after we got done with the project, he called and wanted to know if we could put radiant in his bathroom floors. And I'm like, Stevie, you have a forced air system. Let me think about this. So on top of the hot water tank, there's 2 ports. There's 2 3/4 lines for hot and cold water domestic, and there's 2 1-inchers. We decided to try something, hooked onto the 1-inch lines, put another stainless pump in, bronze pump, and put a flat plate heat exchanger in, and then ran radiant under both his bathrooms and tied those into the flat plate heat exchanger to see if we get him some radiant heat. So I did not know how that was going to affect the overall cost of his operation of the system and what it would do to his loop, what it would do to anything. We saw no difference in loop temperature change through the year. I was concerned how much that unit would run. And I believe what was run extra for his electric, his bill you'll see here shortly, was almost exactly what this came out as. So I would think that it was a little bit higher for the operation of that radiant. I'm just not sure exactly what that ended up costing. This is his what the unit cost to install. It was $41,875. He received $22,642 in NYSERDA rebates and federal tax credit. Then with the system being $19,233. I do not have financing or payment or any of that because he paid for that system. So I don't really have a good payback. I also don't really have a very good comparison to give anyone on what he saved, because there really wasn't a comparison for him. He was spending so much time cutting wood that there's no payback. Every time I see him, that's all he talks about is he's not cutting wood. So it's hard for us to get a good judge out of what he spent. His fuel oil bill was pretty high, and the face cord he was cutting, he can't even tell me a proper number because he just kept cutting. So that incentive number is also changed currently. There's a 0% financing option now through NYSERDA that I'm not sure how long that's going to last or all the details on it yet, but the rebate and incentive of that system versus today would be different. The rebate through the federal tax program is 26% instead of 30%, and the NYSERDA rebate would be a little different also because of the hot water situation. We're not sure on that yet. So this is what the homeowner sees with the Symphony. When I talked about that before with the thermostat, the Symphony connects to your cell phone, laptop, desktop, whichever you would like, and you can see what the unit is doing at all times. You can change the settings. You can, as far as temperature goes, if you're away, you can change it. We can see what the unit does every 10 seconds at our office. So if you called and had an issue, freeze protection sensor or something went out, we could look up and find out exactly when it happened. Has it happened before? What's caused it? How many errors it's had? We can see everything it does. We can adjust the fan speed. We can adjust compressor speed. Everything that we can do on site to the unit, we can do at our office. So if you called and said that the fan was blowing too hard or you would like it a little bit warmer, we actually can adjust the fan speed and try to get more temperature out of the airflow. It shows you your return air temperatures, supply air temperatures, and also the loop temperature, which is sitting stagnant, was 45 degrees 2 days ago. So it does not show it running because it's not running, it's just sitting at 70. And shows your weather over there. This is his energy consumption screen. So he used 797 and we were thinking 850, I believe. I'm sure he was that by the end of, this was May to May. There would be to the other day actually when I looked at this. So the previous year, I wouldn't have had a full year to go back on with him, but he would be very, very close to that. I believe it was a little colder the year before. That shows that we were very close in the estimation of what his heating and cooling bill. His cooling bill is more, and his heating bill is less. He keeps it at icebox in there. It's like 67, 68 degrees. It's pretty chilly in the house. But you can see this at all times also on the thermostat to know how much energy the unit is costing you per day, per month, and per year. And there is Steve next to his 7 Series, not cutting wood.
Ryan, that was terrific. Why don't you stop sharing your screen and bring us back to the meeting? Thank you so much. That was fantastic. I'm just going to finish out our presentation and then there'll be the question and answer period for all of you to participate. Okay. So thank you so much to Ryan. Dailey Geothermal is the newest partner with the HeatSmart Tompkins program, and we're really happy to have Ryan and his crew, Ryan and Leah and their crew on our HeatSmart team. We have 2 installers who are heat pump specialists. So you heard from Ryan today, and Nick from NP Environmental will be giving a case study on a hydronic system conversion 1 week from today. And then we have 2 other installer partners, Halco and Snug Planet, and they do insulation and air sealing as well as heat pumps. So, and Snug Planet gave their case study on Tuesday, and that it was recorded, and we'll be putting that up on our website, and Halco's is this coming Tuesday. So if you enjoyed this presentation, but you'd like to see some other installers as well, please sign up for those or look for the videos coming soon. And we're encouraging you to get started with HeatSmart. If you don't know what you want to do yet or who you want to work with, we're here to help you. The steps are to enroll on our website, heatsmarttompkins.org, and you'll fill out a short form. One of the things to fill out on that form is to select one or more of our installer partners to give you an assessment for your house. Those home assessments are absolutely free and there's no obligation to you whatsoever. Some people enroll and they don't get a system put in until 3 years later. Some people never do, and some people do it right away. So it just keeps you in relationship with the HeatSmart program, and we're here to assist you, answer any questions. You can reach out to me or Jonathan anytime via email or on the phone. So that's it for our presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing, and this is time for your questions. Again, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type a question into the chat.
There's 2 in there and I can answer those quick.
All right, go ahead, Ryan.
Carl, so the Symphony is connected to the internet by Wi-Fi. There's a small router that sits on top of
Ryan,
the unit.
can you read out the question first?
Oh, I'm sorry. He asked, how does a Symphony thermostat connect to the internet? And do you drill holes versus trenching? So the first one, Symphony, it's a small router that hooks into the unit. We use an aid tool, it's called, just a mini computer, plugs in to change the settings, and you change the Symphony plugs into that port, goes in an expansion board, and then you hook it to the Wi-Fi, and then you can see everything the unit does. The drill holes versus trenching, yes, probably 80% of our systems are vertical. We do all of our stuff with Barney Moravec, Incorporated Penny, and they drill all our holes. Some years I would honestly put that closer to 100%. Some years 60, but I'd say overall 75 to 80% of systems are vertical versus horizontal, especially the bigger ones. You can definitely do that remotely. It's a little bit more for you to do for us, but it can definitely be done remotely.
Yeah, Harriet, if you have...
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say the question.
Yeah, that's okay. Harriet is asking about, she said that Snug Planet said that they couldn't do a remote assessment. I'm not sure when you spoke to them, but they...
The other day.
So I'll follow up with you about that, because I'm not sure why they said that. They've told us that they can. So maybe it's a specific situation to your home. I'm not really sure, but
I don't think so. But anyway, yeah, I'll talk to you. Thank you.
we'll get in touch with you.
Okay.
It's fun. You're FaceTiming with people that you don't even know to do assessments in houses, and it's interesting.
Yeah. So other questions for Ryan?
Yeah, I have a question about pricing. I know on the HeatSmart website, at least last year, you had very specific prices for certain size systems, which doesn't really seem to take into account how much work actually needs to be done. So my system, for example, already is set up with a buffer tank, and it's a hydronic system. And is there any break that I would get on that because it's easier to set up?
Set up for
geothermal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not that much work would actually need to be done inside the building.
So if you have a boiler, you're saying you have a boiler in there with a hydronic setup?
I do. It's radiant floor heat.
That's yeah, that's a how do I say this? There's a lot of work in that system. You cannot, generally speaking, anything that's involved, that's in your house, that's used right now for a system will not be used again for a geothermal water-to-water setup.
Why is that?
Because a boiler, so there's different piping methodologies, and the conventional boiler piping schematic does not work in geothermal world efficiently. It's just, we've learned enough lessons that it wouldn't happen personally. There are people probably that would install that for you. If it's what I'm thinking it is without seeing any pictures, it would be a complete repipe and installation differently. You're trying to get the most load you can out of the geothermal hot water. You're limited on what you can produce temperature-wise. So if you have baseboard, you have radiant, whatever you may have.
I don't have baseboard.
I'm just using it as an example, right? So let's say, let's take all the variations. You have an air handler someplace, you have a baseboard someplace, and you have radiant. You're trying to get the hottest water delivered to that area efficiently without certain valves and stuff. Now, when you use outdoor sensors to fluctuate that so that you're saving as much energy as you can, right? Generally, in boiler world, that doesn't happen. So you turn it on and everybody fires it to 180 and you send it out wherever you got to go, and you have pumps on every zone and you don't worry about efficiency in those senses. And that's not how we like to install water to water systems, because you generally have issues very quickly with it.
Yeah, well, what I was saying is my system operates at 120 max.
Yep, super setup for geo, absolutely. But like when you say a buffer tank, so buffer tanks are used in a different ways with water to water setups. And getting flow through a buffer tank is extremely critical. Every single thing in geothermal, I guess this is what it boils down to. Everything, whether it be forced air system or water to water system, is completely based on flow. If you put a water to air system in with an improper sized duct system, stuff neck down, you're going to have issues long term. If you do the same thing with water to water, you will have issues long term. The house won't heat properly. You won't be happy. The unit won't last as long as it should. If you put the flow to a water to water unit, even more so than what the manuals from the manufacturer say, generally speaking, it will work much better. And you're not investing in something that's cheap. So
Let me
No.
say that, Danny, these are good questions, and that's why it's good to have more than one assessment, because the prices on our website are sort of a base price for an installed unit. And that said, every house is different and every situation is different. So that's why the installer has to sort of see your situation and give you a proposal that's right for you, because, you know, houses are unique. So it sounds like you have a really interesting setup that might be an easier conversion than for most people. But again, the installer would have to work with you to make a assessment of that, because at the end of the day, they want to make sure they install a system that they can stand behind and that you'll be happy with. So
we can talk about radiant water to water all day.
yeah, and there's another water to water webinar coming up, so we can talk more about that. So
Carl asked.
he has 3 questions. So Carl said, first, can you hook the Water Furnace 7 system into a solar hot water system and solar panel system?
Yes.
And then he says he has a 25-year-old gas forced air system, Lennox 21 pulse system, 3,500 square foot home, and was wondering about trenching versus vertical drilling.
Yes and yes.
Yeah. So that on our price sheet, which is not uploaded yet to our website, it says what the add-on for a vertical drilling is to the price. There are some installers that the price is the same for horizontal or vertical, but I believe all of our installers have the quoted price. The baseline price is for a horizontal loop system, and there's an add-on of another, I think, $2,500 usually for a vertically drilled system, if I'm remembering correct. That, don't quote me on that number, but something along those lines.
Adam has a good point too.
So Adam is saying about the snug assessment. Harriet, were you asking for a quote for heat pumps or for energy efficiency upgrades, or both?
I had spoken to John Herod first for a while, and he sent me some, informative links, and then he asked me to send him information. So I sent him my NYSEG and Mirabito bills and pictures of the outside. And basically, I was still trying to figure out whether to do a geothermal system or just a central electric heat system. And I sent him all that information. I didn't hear back from him, but then somebody from his office called me who didn't seem to even have that information and told me the person doing the assessment would have to come in person. She seemed kind of mixed up. And so I feel lost in the middle of that non-communication.
Well, that is a perfect example of why the HeatSmart program exists, because get lost in the middle with your communication with an installer. That's what we're here for. So Jonathan or I will definitely, is this afternoon a good time to follow up with you?
Yes.
Okay, well,
I would also say that happens with everybody. That's not I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of doing something like that before, because
I mean,
we all have.
the person who called me back got my name wrong. She got totally wrong what I was looking at, and she hadn't seen all the information I had sent to John. So if that's typical, it's going to be quite a ride ahead. I guess.
Nah.
right, as Ryan said, it can happen anywhere, but right now, in the pause, a lot of
It's difficult.
employees are furloughed right now, so it's a little bit challenging, the community.
Mhm.
We're all being a little bit understanding with each other at the moment. Go ahead.
One other issue, when the assessment is including a lot of the shell work, it's harder to do remotely because they can't use their infrared camera.
Right.
They can't use, they can't do blower door tests without actually going there. If the house is pretty well insulated to begin with and you feel good about that, you've already worked on it, then an installer can look at your past fuel bills and the size of the house, and they can come up with a pretty good idea as to what the heating capacity that's needed is, and then suggest the system. So that could be part of what's happening with Snug, but it does sound like they totally scrambled their information. So
Since I gathered all that information that he asked for, including the pictures of outside, do you think I should just forward that email with all the information to you? Okay.
Sure, yeah, do that, and we'll talk to him about it. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure, as Brian was saying, I'm sure he will be unhappy that a customer got that that treatment.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've done it. We've all done it. I go back to the office and be like, "What the heck happened here?" And then I ended up being the one that forgot to tell somebody, and it happens.
Okay.
The next question, though, that's for Scott Smith's going to have to answer that if he doesn't mind.
We have another question from Carl, which I will read, which is about the geothermal incentive. They have been from NYSERDA, but as of April 1st, our new incentives are actually from the utility. So if you are in NYSEG territory, your incentive comes through NYSEG. If you're in National Grid territory, your incentive comes through National Grid. And those are brand new. They're structured slightly differently than the NYSERDA ones, but they come out to about the same for most systems. They're a little bit better for the air source heat pump systems than what we used to have. And those are long-term incentives. They're mandated by the state to offer those incentives for, I don't even know, at least 5 years, right, Scott? Yeah. So the incentives are available, but if you can take advantage of the federal tax credit for a geo installation, this year the tax credit is 26%. Next year it drops to 22%. So if you are paying a tax bill and can take advantage of that, then that does make a difference. Adam asks, when will the 0% loan be available? We just found out about this 0% loan. We're very, very excited about it. And it is not available to apply for yet, but it's coming, and you can borrow up to $25,000 for 5, 10, or 15 years for a geo system, for insulation, for, I believe it covers solar as well. And Scott, did you want to tell the folks a little bit more about that? We have Scott Smith of NYSERDA with us here, a special celebrity guest.
I am not a celebrity, but yeah, and I don't know that I have much more to say about the financing. You're right that it's not available yet, but it will be. The way you described it, Lisa, is as I understand it, but we're still working out the details. Yeah, I think you had mentioned ground source and PV. It'll also be, air source heat pumps will be eligible, and energy efficiency too. So pretty much anything that a customer would do with you through HeatSmart Tompkins should be eligible. There's a legislative cap of $25,000 per loan that we're stuck with, unfortunately. That's written into the law. So that's a little bit of a challenge for people that want to do lots of things or even just do a geo system that costs more than that. You answered the question, I think, that was asked about the NYSERDA program. Ryan, is there something else you wanted me to answer that I missed?
Oh, no, that was the one.
Okay. Yeah, NYSEG's program is for, well, NYSEG National Grid, their programs are for 5 years, and we're working closely with them. You know, Lisa's right, there are some differences between their program and ours, but we tried to make those differences as small as possible. And, you know, we'll be working with them on the programs going forward.
Thanks so much, Scott. And Carl wanted to know if you've already taken that tax credit for solar and you can do it for a geosystem. Yes, yes, yes. We solar a few years ago. Then we bought a electric plug-in hybrid and we got another tax credit. Then we got an electric car, we got another tax credit, and now we can put in a geosystem and get another tax credit. So we are living high off the hog here with our renewable energy tax credits. And you can too.
I wanted to just add to the incentives discussion that there are some very good incentives that are still administered through NYSERDA that cover building shell work and energy efficiency moves. So those are worth looking at too. We usually don't emphasize them as much when we're talking about a geothermal system because they are income. You've got to have a income below a certain threshold, and often those people are looking for something less expensive than a geothermal system. But they are excellent incentives, and they are really valuable for the people that qualify, and they're worth looking at. And your installers, any of our installers can help you determine whether you fit. It's not super low income. It's sort of moderate levels of income that you can be eligible.
Teresa is asking, since she's part of the Otsego Electric Co-op, would she still be able to get the 0% loan? And that is a yes. I'm pretty positive that anybody can. Is that not right?
So as I mentioned before, the 0% financing details aren't fully developed and haven't been made public yet. But I think in general, things like that, you know, eligibility kinds of questions will be the same now as they are for the current Green Jobs, Green New York loans, and that financing is generally available for people who are even in those municipal districts or that don't pay into the SPC. But that's, I think, you know, it's one of those details that'll be finalized when the financing is ready.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, there are some little spots in New York that have their own utility, like Bath has its own utility, and apparently Otsego has its own electric utility. So there are a few small enclaves that have escaped from the giant utilities, but that does sometimes make these programs a little awkward. So it is 12:45. Thank you guys all for joining. You don't have to leave, but we'll stay if there's more questions. Thanks, Carl. He's saying your presentation was great, Ryan.
Thanks, Carl.
If there are more questions, we're happy to stay
Yep.
on with you. But if
Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you for being here. And please look and join our future webinars. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next few weeks on Zoom.
Danny, you have one?
Sorry?
I think Danny had a question.
Oh, Danny, did you have another question?
All right, you gone.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It was really very helpful.